Welcome to the Farming Without the Bank podcast, the show with a no BS approach to money, hosted by a farm strategy expert and authorized IBC practitioner. Join us as we get real and expose the flaws of traditional financial institutions in order to help farmers take control of their finances, create peace of mind, grow their wealth, and leave a legacy. Now, here's your host, Mary Jo Irmen.
Welcome to today's podcast. Thank you for returning or joining in for the first time. Either way, I appreciate you being here. If you are so inclined, please leave a review. How to do that, I have no idea, so don't ask me. Find a techie friend. They might be able to help you. Hey, today we are talking to another client guest, and I am hoping that you guys are enjoying these client guests, because it's not a small task to get somebody to share their story and to visit. And so it's very, very nice of my awesome clients to share their information and to give you guys a little insight on farming without the bank. Today we are talking to Meghan Foos. She and her husband Bryce just recently moved to South Florida from cold South Dakota. They had to, due to some family circumstances, they had to sell their ranch in South Dakota, disperse everything, and start over. So those of you that think it's hard and impossible, Meghan has a great story if she decides to share that story. Otherwise, don't tell me it's not possible, because it is. They're doing it. They have been clients since 2017. So thank you, Meghan, for being on and for sharing your experience just even with farming without the bank.
Yeah.
We appreciate it.
Thanks for having me, Mary Jo.
You're welcome. I'm excited. So tell me, first question everybody gets is, how did you hear about the book and what were your initial thoughts?
Well, when we found out about your book, we were struggling with trying to work with a bank that would finance us for buying real estate for our cattle operation. And so I told my husband we needed to start thinking outside the box. And it was kind of funny. I don't know if it's like one of those deals where they know what you're talking about, but all of a sudden I started seeing ads for Farming Without the Bank on my Facebook. And so then I'm all, hey, we got to check into this. And so we read the little blurb online, and then we bought your book right away. And then both of us, we lived 4 hours from you at the time. We're like, we've got to meet this lady in person. So,
and I thought that was funny because you were one of the first clients I had that drove that far to come see me. And so was it, human nature is, can I trust her? I don't know who she is. And I was only 4 hours. For me, 4 hours is a long drive. For you living in the middle of nowhere, South Dakota, 4 hours is
we're
normal.
like, oh, that's no problem. We can do that in a day and be home.
So was some of that just to vet me and say, hey, she's legit. She's not going to just steal our money and leave, because otherwise it's just internet meetings and people are, they're a little bit leery of that because you just don't know who you can and can't trust.
Well, and that's definitely why we came to you, because we wanted to see, are you professional in person? Are you the real deal? Yeah.
Oh, I'm excited that I passed.
You passed with flying colors. But,
that's awesome.
Like you said, you don't really know what to think about all the internet stuff, but yeah. Anyway.
And this being such a, I titled the book Farming Without the Bank. So it seems like it's this get rich impossible thing that, you can't, there's no way you can do that. So when people say don't judge a book by its cover, literally you probably shouldn't think like, this is all going to happen tomorrow. I didn't say Farming Without the Bank tomorrow.
Right. Yeah. Right. Exactly. Well, and that's, when we met with you, my husband told you, I don't know if you remember, he's like, I just wish I would have known about this or read your book 10 years ago. Of course, you didn't have it then, but yeah.
So tell us how old Bryce is.
Bryce is 34 now. and I'm 40.
Yeah. 10 years ago, he'd have been like in his 20s.
20s.
I always find it funny when somebody in their 20s is like, if I'd have known this when I was 21 or when I was 20, I'm like, geez, you're not 60.
Right.
Like you still, like Bryce, you're 34. Like you still have a long time to go.
Right. Yeah, exactly. Yep.
Okay. Did you ask after you read the book then? Because you guys met with me quickly after you read the book. Did you then start talking to other people and saying, hey, have you heard about this? Is this thing possible with life insurance?
Yeah, we did. And actually, I found out one of the guys that was one of my reps for at work, he actually was doing it with another company. And so he's like, oh, yeah, that's how I worked into buying an apartment building. Was he started doing the infinite banking concept with who he worked with.
Mm-hmm.
So when we even sat down with our banker and we asked him what he thought about whole life, he's like, oh yeah, I have whole life policies, and not even through his own bank. He's like, yeah, he was even like, you should do it. So he wasn't trying to tell us what they had. He was all, he was recommending we go with you because you knew what you were talking about. So.
Wow.
Yeah.
I did not know that.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's amazing what I find out interviewing my clients.
Yeah. Well, and Bryce really trusted him. And once he said that he uses the cash value in his whole life policies, then Bryce felt really more comfortable with the whole concept. But yeah.
So you never got any pushback then? After you guys started, you didn't get any pushback from your lender?
No, we didn't. No, he was all for it.
And that's awesome because he's not scared. He wasn't scared. He was doing what was best for you and not scared of losing a client.
Right. Well, he ended up losing us because we ended up moving anyways, but
but it wasn't because of me.
Right. It wasn't because of you. Yeah.
I always find it funny how a lot of them are scared. Like they're scared that you're going to get rid of them when in fact, we're just making them the plan B rather than plan A. So it's not like we're going to severely get rid of you. And it's not like I'm going to have every farmer client on the street. I mean, you guys will still have a business to run.
Right.
You know?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay. So how many policies do you have?
Well, we have one on each of us, and we also have one on Bryce's mom because we're in an LLC together. And then when we had our little baby boy, we started one on him. So we have 4.
So the whole family is covered.
Right.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Because you're going, and that's awesome for mom because she understood what we were trying to do. She put her time and effort into it as well to learn it. So that's great because now everybody kind of knows. And even though your in-laws don't have policies, they still know of the concept. It's just a matter of time.
Well, and my mother-in-law, she has a policy on herself. So if you count that, then there's 5 policies that we've all created. But yeah, yeah.
Awesome. And so the one that you have on the baby, now we're not sticking, you don't have to tell us how much money you're sticking in there, but we're not sticking a ton of money in.
Right.
So we did that. A lot of people don't always understand why we're doing policies on kids, but we did it so that we have a little bit of death benefit, but we're going to be able to teach him how to use the concept.
Right. Well, and I think with the illustration we did, when he graduates from high school, he's going to have probably close to $80,000, I think, in cash value to borrow against to pay for if he goes to college or if he wants to buy a car or whatever. And so we can teach him how to use his own policy. So,
and that's not to say those are going to be his only policies, because if you guys are ranching, you're most likely going to give him a cow, and then whatever offspring he has is going to be his. And so if he's selling something, at least then he's got the ability to stick the proceeds from that into a policy, and he might need to have another policy to do that.
Right, exactly. Yeah. I just wanted somewhere to put some money so we're saving for him, and it's not just sitting in a savings account or, so, and this is a lot more usable than a lot of other options.
Right. How did you feel about the upfront capital? Some people get concerned about the fact that some of their money is going to be going to the death benefit portion of the policy and that they don't get access to that. And so how did you feel about that?
I guess that never really bothered us because we were paying for term life anyways. And so, but it's just part of owning a policy, I guess, and I really want to make sure that we cover, if something does happen to any of us, we cover our debt, and we make sure that whoever's going to be in charge of all of those expenses, that they're okay and not, I don't know.
So you're okay paying for some death benefits.
Yeah. I mean, that's part of doing business,
Right. And it is a life insurance policy.
It is a life insurance policy. Exactly. So yeah, it never bothered us. It was like, well, nothing's free, you got to pay a little bit.
Right.
Yep.
And as Nelson's talks about in his policy, it's the part of getting started. It's just part of putting capital up. You guys started ranching. You know what the cost of that capital is and to build it and to be successful.
Right.
And now, unfortunately, the cost of starting over. But it's the cost. It is what it is in order to do business.
Right. Well, I mean, if you decided one day you wanted to open a bank, you're going to have a cost to open that bank before you can start loaning money out to people.
Right.
Same concept, really.
Or any store.
Anything.
Right.
Yeah. Any business. Yeah. Like you said. Yeah.
So you guys are still using the bank because you had to start over.
Right. Yeah. We sold our registered Angus herd. We totally liquidated our equipment, our cows, everything. And, we bought a motorhome and traveled the country trying to figure out where we wanted to live. And who knew we were going to end up in South Florida? But we're pretty happy to be here when everybody's had winter since the beginning of October in South Dakota.
But I remember a conversation that we had when you were trying to buy that place, and you also have a place in another state where you're from,
right,
that you were trying to sell. And I remember a phone conversation of, my God, I wish we had more money in life insurance because the banks are driving me crazy.
Right.
Like they were really jacking you guys around.
Yeah.
And you would have been to South Florida a heck of a lot sooner if you wouldn't have had that hassle, because we were multi-state. Everybody was being jacked around.
Yeah,
so
that's so true.
The value of that policy has really come in. Like, the value of seeing what could be is easier to see when you're under circumstances like that.
Right. Yep. Yeah. And we used our policies. All the money from our liquidation went into our policies, and we maxed them out as much as we could. And then we borrowed against it. And that's what bought the cows that we put on the place.
So we have policy loans for cows.
For cows. Yep.
Awesome.
Right now. But yeah.
And because you only have half the herd that you want, you don't have to pay those loans back if you're going to hold over calves.
Right. Exactly. But yeah, I mean, I laugh. I guess I'll name them Farm Credit. That's who we had our land loan with in Idaho. And they have this ad about, we'll give you a loan against your equity to expand your operation and do all this. So we went through the process of trying to use the equity that we had, and turned in a stack of paperwork 2 inches thick and all the application and everything. And they would not consider us for an equity loan no matter what. We have good credit. We had cash in hand. We even put $160,000 in there, an account for, it's like a farm advancement account, like an interest earning thing. Put that there, and that didn't matter. They were not going to give us an equity loan, no matter what. So I told them they need to take that off their website because they really aren't helping people expand their business. But yeah.
Yeah, and when they tell you that you can do something and then at last minute they say, oh, we can't do that.
Yeah.
I mean, you weren't being jacked around like
for 2 months,
like before it all happened.
Right.
It was, you were being jacked around at the very end of, oh, we're ready to go and close, and stuff is falling through.
Yep. Yeah, we were pretty scared that we weren't going to be able to make this all work, but it all came through at the end with a different lender. But yeah, I don't know. Most ag lenders really aren't ag friendly, because I don't know how young people can get started through an ag lender, because you have to have so much collateral.
They can't always. I mean, I have quite a few clients that are using credit cards to get started. And you get started at a much smaller scale where you don't need to have the lender. Like, you guys aren't starting over at a small scale. You're still starting over at a fairly large scale because you had a big disbursement. So it's not like, it's not like you came from absolutely nothing. You had something and you were able to start a little bit bigger, and needing that lender, but it's not like you didn't have the equity. It's not like you didn't have the credit.
Right.
And it's not like you guys couldn't have had the income if you would have wanted off the farm jobs. I mean, just like them being difficult is their job.
Right. Yeah.
And I get it. I understand the banking side of it. I understand that the bank they want to make sure they have collateral. It's a loan, it's a business. But if we could go back and do what Bryce said, and he could have started 10 years sooner, he may have not been in this situation, right? Where you guys needed to go to the bank. You could have started in a whole different kind of situation.
Definitely.
But when you're taking loans against the policy, are you doing that yourself online? Are you finding it pretty easy to do?
I do them online, but I also call and talk to Jess and make sure, I communicate with her what we're doing. So she follows up behind the scenes too. But yeah, and I've done the online thing. I wish they'd improve that a little bit. But
yeah, the insurance companies are older than the hills. Yeah. And so we're just kind of trying to get them up to speed. Yeah. They are working on it, but it is not the fastest process in the world.
Right.
It is a little bit frustrating,
but they do. I mean, the turnaround on when you get your funds is really fast. Usually, it's within a week or less than a week. Once you do the application, and anytime I've called, our policies are with One America through you, and anytime I've called them, they've always been helpful. If I felt like I needed to call them myself, but otherwise, I just usually communicate with you or Jess. But usually,
Yep, that's our job, is to do it for you.
Right.
But yeah, if you can do it online, and One America's process online is actually not quite as cumbersome as some. Some of them don't even have an online option.
Right.
So at least they have the online option. But it is good that you let Jess know so that we can follow up on everything and make sure it's all It's all done correctly.
And then you have a record of it in your file. It doesn't fall through the cracks.
Right. Yeah, but it's easy to pay it online. It's easy to get that loan online, get it ACH'd.
Right.
And a lot of people are concerned. Now, were you concerned the first time you took a loan? Like, does this really work? Like, I got my policy and my money's there, but is it really as easy as Mary Jo makes it sound?
Well, I guess at that point, we already trusted you.
Oh, okay. Yeah. I have clients that still, like, they'll get their policy and then they'll do a loan. They don't even need the money, but they'll do a loan just to prove that, like, they can get the money. And it's that easy. It's that easy.
Well, and we did, because we're in an LLC where essentially we're buying, my mother-in-law, we're buying her out of the LLC each year. We make a payment. Essentially, she's holding the note for the LLC for us instead of us giving her a lump sum. Well, anyways, so how we work our policy, and when we set it up with you, we would put the money that we're going to make a payment to her, put it in the policy we own on her, and then we immediately borrow it out and then pay her. And then she takes that money and puts it in her policy. So we kind of do it that way. And then when, anyway, so we did it right.
But are you paying that loan back every year?
We try to, or, we're definitely paying the interest. We kind of have had, strange circumstances the last couple of years.
Right. The plan that we originally set out is not being followed.
Right.
Imagine that. Like, I always tell people, I can do a plan for you. Like, some people want a plan. We can do a plan. I guarantee you there's no way in hell that plan's going to happen.
Right.
Because life happens, things happen, and we have to make sure, like, there's going to be some variables in there. And I remember setting that up for your mother-in-law, like setting it up for you to buy her out that way. But we have to be very cognizant of the fact that, and I don't want to mislead listeners, that we're just putting money in and borrowing and paying back, or borrowing and borrowing and borrowing.
Right.
Because we still have interest that's due. So either the interest is getting paid or that loan is getting paid back and the premium is coming from something else. And the loan each year is being borrowed from cash value because we still have a premium to pay. So it's a great strategy, but you really have to understand it. And you guys, I don't do that strategy for just anybody, but it has to be very clear. And I remember running a spreadsheet on that exact strategy because I thought, oh, this is like the greatest strategy in the world. And then I ran the spreadsheet and I'm like, this is the worst strategy in the world. Yeah. Like the interest is going to eat this up if we don't pay it back.
Right.
So we had to be very specific that the interest had to be paid if nothing else was paid.
Right.
On that policy.
And we always do. And yeah, I mean, we were hoping that every time we had a bull sale, which we don't have bull sales anymore, but we'd always pay off the loan we borrowed and only borrow the actual amount of what we owed to her for her payment. And then use it, for business use if we needed anything above that cash value. But
are you doing that on the policy that you have on her life?
On her, yeah.
Yes. So when and if mom passes first and there's a loan, now mom has been paid for. Exactly. And the loan is paid back with her death benefit.
With hers.
So the policy is not on your life or your or Bryce's life. The policy is on your mother-in-law's life. And we're using her policy to buy her out.
Exactly. Yep. Right.
Okay.
Yep.
Let's see. Has a policy made it easier through the transition of everything that's happened and the sellout and the buying? And have you had a little bit of peace of mind, like, oh, we can increase our herd. We don't have to pay these things back right away. We had access to some money.
I think it made us feel a lot more secure because, one, we had somewhere for quite a bit of disbursement money to go into the policies. It's like, what do? You don't want it just sitting in an account, and we didn't want to tie it up. So we were able, since we had the 4 policies, but we just put in everything we could into them and worked with you and Jess on that. And then, and then, I don't know, it just felt more secure. I don't know.
And I do remember the phone call of, Mary Jo, we bought the RV with cash. Yeah, it was a great training period. Stop spending cash.
Right.
And but in a situation where we have a huge influx of money, we've not been in that situation before.
Right.
So we're not thinking, oh, our first phone call should be Mary Jo, and we should strategize what to do with this money. And so we did it afterwards, which it still worked. Of do we start another policy? What does that look like? Can we get it in? All those questions with that influx of money. If you're going to sell out or have some sort of inheritance or something, it doesn't ultimately matter. But there's more than one way to do it. Maybe we can't get the money in. And in your case, we couldn't get all of it in. But anything that was spent in cash, we still need to make sure we pay that back. And so at some point, hopefully we can do that. Right now, it's more important just to get our feet back on the ground and settled and
get our business going. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. But
to raise cows in temperatures that are not 60 below.
Right. We're calving right now. And it's on green grass and in the sunshine. That's unusual for January.
I knew what you've been down there before in your previous life.
Right.
But this is a first for Bryce.
Oh, definitely.
Right?
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah. So Bryce calving without snow.
Yep.
I'm looking forward to the visit.
Oh, you'll love it.
I don't know when it is, but I'm looking forward to the visit. What do you think the greatest, or what do you see as the greatest benefits of what you guys are doing?
Well, we're truly building an opportunity for us to stay in ag and to hopefully, if that's something our child wants to do, if Clark wants to, that it's a true legacy because otherwise I don't see how ag is going to stay viable, sustainable.
Yeah.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah,
it's all about how we pass it down, right?
Definitely.
And you guys literally had a messy, there was no structure of how things were, or it got handed down in a mismanaged way.
Right.
And so if you guys can come back and manage that yours differently to make sure that it is going to survive and they don't have to start over.
Right.
Because you would have been 4th generation.
Right. On the
South Dakota?
On the place in South Dakota, we would have been, Clark, our baby, would be 5th generation. Bryce is 4th. Mm-hmm. And in Idaho would have been 6th generation. If we could have kept those family places together, but they both, are no longer viable.
Because they weren't handed down correctly, they weren't managed correctly. Nobody talked about what was going to happen, and there were vultures.
Yep.
There's always, people think that, I don't want to say people think that I'm starting World War III. I don't want to say that, but I feel like I'm always having to see where World War III is going to start and who the vulture in the family is, because every family has one. I've not ran into a family that doesn't. And sometimes it's not the actual brothers and sisters, aunts and uncles, it's the in-laws. And so being prepared for those, and you guys have lived through some of that, a lot of it. You guys have lived through and saying, okay, we have to start over because it stopped at 4th and 5th generation and it's not going to go any further. And I don't know, I actually have it on my desk, Meghan. Have I told you about the book Willing Wisdom?
No, I don't think so.
Oh, I will. It's such a good book. And it talks about, I'm hoping to have him on as a podcast guest, but it talks about how to have a family meeting and talk about the inheritance and talk about how we're going to hand it down and the money in the family and what that looks like and who's got what and who's doing what with it and what would you do with it. So you get an idea of your kids, and then you can kind of identify the vulture before anybody even dies, because that vulture will come regardless. And they're going to be there before mom and dad die, or they're going to be there after mom and dad die. Their true colors will show along the way. And so it is such a good book to make sure that it's sustainable. And you guys are, unfortunately, a walking testament of how to do it wrong. But you are also a walking testament of putting your head up and saying, we're just going to start over. And we're just going to work with the cards that we were dealt. And that's what we're going to do. So many people would sit and, have a little pity party, for lack of better words, on this is what happened to me. And you guys have always been very, how do we get out of it? What do we do? Where do we go from here? And yeah, it sucks. It sucks. There's no question about it.
Right.
But you have truly made lemonade out of lemons.
Yeah, we have. And I think we're way better off than we ever thought we could have been staying. Mm-hmm. So,
yeah. I mean, besides the alligators and the snakes, like the weather's amazing.
Yeah.
I mean, it's you got to give up a little snow for some creatures that might kill you. But
our ranch now is like a nature park. We have deer and wild turkeys and a bear that comes to visit, and
That's awesome. So I come to visit you. I need a shotgun, bear spray, and a shovel.
Oh.
I wonder if I can get those through TSA.
Yeah.
So, all right. Well, it's awesome because we're truly like, I just look at you guys and go, wow, there's just not many people that could have really lived through what you lived through and still have such a good attitude and be willing to say, okay, you know what, we're starting over, we're doing whatever. And maybe some of that was the testament to you getting the RV and just saying, you know what, we're just going to take off for a year and decide what we want to do. Like, we're not making any rash decisions. We're just going to decide what we need to do.
Yeah.
And then we're going to do that.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah. And about the time that happened to you guys, I had another client that the same thing kind of happened.
Nobody about him. Yeah.
Yeah. And ironically, he's from South Dakota as well, but maybe it's in the water down there. You know, things didn't go well. There was no plan being made. And he too got an RV and away they went.
Yeah.
And now they're finally settled too. They decided, I talked to him the other day and they decided what they're going to do. So
good.
It is good. And they're having to start over as well. But it's all good. It's all good.
Yeah. Hey, the motorhome life, it's not bad. I enjoyed it. I loved going around and checking out the country.
Yeah, but you love to travel.
True.
So what did Bryce think?
Oh, he worried the whole time about what was going to go wrong with the motorhome and how much it was going to cost to get it fixed. So he was never so happy when we got it sold because he knew that there wasn't going to be a bill to fix something on it.
Did you guys have to fix anything along the way?
Nothing major. No, just little stuff. But when we took it for its first oil change, it was $1,300. We were like, oh, this is expensive. Yeah, that was a shocker.
That's funny. Well, good thing we got money in the policy.
Right, exactly.
or in savings or wherever it was at the time. Yeah, it was fun to have you guys traveling because you were at the Cattlemen's Convention and you helped me out in the booth. So that was fun to see you down there.
Right, and your help couldn't make it because it was 50 below in Fargo flying out.
Yep.
So
right. Yeah. All the planes were grounded, and so I've got these traveling clients that are.
I'm like, sure, I'll look at your booth.
I know it was awesome.
I think I helped you sell a few books.
Yeah, you did. You did. It was great.
Yep.
It was and so needed because we were so busy at the convention. You fed me and you helped me sell some books and answer some questions. So that was good.
Yeah, it was great. Yeah.
Do you have any final thoughts or comments or anything for anybody listening that would be hesitant or?
I would just read the book and believe the book and get started. Don't wait. If you wait, you're going to regret waiting because when you finally do, you'll be like, why didn't I do it sooner? So yeah, that's the thing.
Awesome.
I don't know why people buy the book and don't read it right away. It's such an easy read. And my husband isn't a reader, and he had it read in 2 hours. And then the fire was lit.
That's awesome. And even 2 hours. I critique it when I read it. So I don't read it in 2 hours, but that's a pretty fast read.
Yeah. Yeah. But there's a lot of illustrations in it. So it's not just all reading, it's like.
Right.
Yeah. But yeah, once you read the book, your fire will be lit too. So.
Good.
Do it.
Well, thank you very much for being on. I appreciate your time.
Yeah, it's always good to see you.
Yeah, you too. All right. Thank you all for joining in today. I appreciate the fact that you listened in. Hopefully you got some good stuff from Meghan's interview. They have used their policy in many ways that most are not using their policy. So you should have gotten some good ideas. As always, if you have comments, questions, or whatever you need, maryjo@farmingwithoutthebank.com. I will check those and get back to you. But you have a great day, and we'll talk to you on the next podcast.
Thanks for listening to the Farming Without the Bank podcast. We hope today's episode has inspired you to take control of your finances in new ways. Don't forget to check out our website, farmingwithoutthebank.com, and engage with us on our Facebook page, Farming Without the Bank. Join us next week as we smash more financial myths and empower you to accomplish your financial goals.